Millionaire said, "I'll adopt you to little girl," but her song left him shocked forever. The old town of Millfield had its share of secrets, but nothing could prepare its residents for the day when the riches of one of their own crossed paths with a fragile little girl. It was a gripping September afternoon, skies heavy with clouds and shadows that danced eerily on the pavement like restless souls. There, in the park, stood Kevin Langley, a billionaire known for his sharp suits and polished shoes, exuding an air of authority that could silence anyone who dared approach. But today, something else held his attention, something that made him feel a flicker of warmth amidst a world of cold transactions. In the center of the park, beneath the twisted branches of an ancient oak, a girl named Lily perched on a bench. She was no older than 7, with tangled brown hair and bright blue eyes that sparkled with mischief. She wore a faded pink dress, the hem frayed and worn, but it couldn't hide the innocent charm that radiated from her being. As small as she was, she held a magnetism that pulled in the wistful gazes of adults, though they couldn't quite put their finger on why. It was the kind of presence that felt like a whisper of wind, the kind that hints at magic if you listen closely enough. Then, as if orchestrated by the universe, Lily began to sing. It was a haunting melody that drifted through the air, soft as a feather, yet deep enough to rattle the hearts of those who stopped to listen. She sang about dreams, about longing, and about the unseen threads that connect us all. The lyrics sparked something in Kevin, an emotion he thought was long buried beneath layers of money and responsibility. An undeniable urge arose within him. "I'll adopt her," he muttered, half to himself, half as a declaration to shake the world awake. But that's when the strangest thing happened. Just as the final notes faded away, dark clouds broke open, drenching the park in sudden rain. The townsfolk gasped and fled for cover, but not Kevin. He stood there, transfixed, soaking wet, eyes locked on Lily, who looked entirely unbothered by the downpour. Still, he hadn't expected her to turn and stare right into his soul, her expression unwavering. It struck him a raw bolt of electricity. Their worlds were colliding, and everything was about to change. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The rain poured harder, washing away the remnants of one life and threatening to drown a new possibility. Kevin's heart raced, a wild rhythm that matched the pounding of rain on the pavement. What was it about this girl? Why was her song seeping through his chest, pulling at the strings of his heart? As he moved closer, he could see the confidence in her gaze, a piercing look that revealed an understanding far beyond her years. Then, without a word, she smiled. It was a smile that both soothed and disturbed him. It hinted at knowing something profound, something cosmic, that sent shivers rushing down his spine. Was it hope? Was it danger? The crowd that had fled now whispered among themselves, speculating, judging, their tongues wagging with disbelief. Can you believe this? What an odd girl. Kevin felt a lump form in his throat, an inner battle raging. He was a man oozing authority, yet here he was facing the most innocent of beings, feeling like a child caught in a storm. Before he could question his impulses, he leaned down, ready to speak. But just then, Lily sang again, her voice rising above the rain with a chilling, ethereal quality. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice barely audible over the rushing winds. The question hung in the air as her gaze penetrated deeper, and somewhere behind her blue eyes, he sensed a secret waiting to be shared. What was she about to reveal? In that moment of suspended anticipation, he realized that everything he'd known was at the brink of unraveling. Little Lily, the girl with the enchanting voice, was about to lead him into a hidden world that no amount of money could prepare him for. and the haunting song still lingered, echoing deep within him, like a promise waiting for its time to be fulfilled. The rain continued to tumble down, and Kevin's heart thundered in unison with the storm. With each droplet that splashed against him, images from his past flickered like the shadows cast by the trees. He was back in his childhood lost, alone, yearning for connection. But now, as he stood before this girl, a strange warmth filled his chest. Lily's eyes were electric, sparking with curiosity and secrets untold. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice rising above the chorus of raindrops. For a moment, Kevin faltered, caught off guard by the intensity of her gaze. It was as though she could peel away every facade he'd ever constructed. "I don't know," he stammered, but a part of him was ready to say more. Maybe he was meant to say more. "Come closer," she beckoned, her small hand extending toward him. In that gesture, he felt a pull, as if she were drawing him into her world, one that was begging to be explored yet steeped in impending shadows. Kevin, drenched but undeterred, stepped forward. The crowd had thinned, their fearful whispers fading into the distance. Muscles tight, he absorbed the wild beauty surrounding them, the whispered secrets of the rain, the charged atmosphere that hummed in the air. Suddenly, the skies brightened for a moment, a faint light breaking through the clouds, illuminating Lily's face. "The rain washes away the past," she said, her voice steady despite the storm's fury. "But it also reveals what's hidden." His stomach tightened. What did she know? What was she hiding? The words slipped from her lips as if they were small gems scattered on a path he realized he'd been walking. "Do you want to know the truth?" Kevin nodded, captivated. "What truth?" he whispered, afraid that the answer would fracture the fragile connection forming between them. But before she could respond, the temperature dropped abruptly. A shiver ran down his spine as a bone-chilling gust of wind swept through the park, carrying with it an odd whispering sound like voices caught in chaos or spirits reaching through the veil. Lily's expression shifted. The innocent smile was replaced with something profound, almost otherworldly. "They are waiting," she murmured, glancing up as if listening for something beyond the raindrops. "Who's waiting?" Panic clawed at his throat. The quiet had sharpened, and an unnatural stillness fell over the park. The air thickened, as if time itself had paused. With a sudden intensity, Lily continued, "Every choice you make from now on leads to them. If you want to adopt me, you have to face what's coming." Kevin's heart raced anew, each beat echoing his uncertainty. The distant sounds seemed to resonate in his mind, growing louder, a chaotic symphony of messages, fears, and regrets colliding in one point of focus. What was about to emerge? What had he committed himself to? And as if on cue, the rain began to pelt down harder, the sounds of thunder rumbling fiercely, surging towards them with an inevitable crash. Kevin felt the weight of the world clutch his chest as he inhaled sharply. Would adopting this child plunge him into more shadows? "Lily," he started, confusion and determination swirling within him. "I don't know what this means." A silence enveloped them, pregnant with the profound unsaid. "You'll find out soon enough," she said, her eyes turning glassy as she stepped back. Before he could register her movement, she turned, sprinting into the downpour, her figure disappearing into the looming shadows. "Lily!" he shouted, but the wind swallowed his words, and the park twisted into a labyrinth of confusion. Kevin stood there, heart racing, torn between the last echo of her song and the terrifying new path unfolding before him. What had he set in motion? It was then he spotted something glimmering among the mud, a small pendant, half buried, flashing like a beacon. Would he dare to reach for it? What had he uncovered? And whatever lay within that pendant was about to reveal everything. Would he have the courage to find out? Kevin hesitated, staring at the pendant poking out of the mud, its surface reflecting the fragmented light of the storm. He felt a magnetic pull from it, as if the pendant itself held secrets tied to Lily. He took a step closer, heart pounding, breath shallow. As his fingers brushed the cold, wet metal, a jolt ran through him, intense and sharp. Memories, flickers of the past collapsed around him like dominoes. Faces of children he once played with, laughter echoing, then replaced by screams of quicker despair. Suddenly, Kevin wasn't just holding a pendant. He was holding specters of his own history, his mistakes, his regrets. The pendant released an odd warmth into his palm, a strange comfort amidst the damp chill. He pulled it free, and with it came a deep inhalation of the world surrounding him that felt impossibly heavier. There was a symbol on it, a crescent moon intertwined with an ancient symbol he couldn't recognize. "What do you want?" The question Lily had asked earlier flooded his thoughts. He glanced around, trying to catch a glimpse of her silhouette through the downpour. The rain blurred the edges of reality, wrapping the park in a cloak of obscurity and despair. But the pendant felt right, like a key, unlocking pieces of his life he didn't know still existed. "Lily," he called again, voice strained against the thunder. Fear wrapped tightly around his chest. What had he entangled himself in? The whispers in the wind seemed more pronounced now, curling words of warning that danced around his consciousness. With determination, he turned the pendant over in his hand. Suddenly, it vibrated, warming even more, and a soft hum filled the air, resonating with the storm's rhythm. It was a call he couldn't ignore, compelling him to understand. Every choice you make leads to them. Her words echoed in his mind like thunder in the distance. What was she warning him about? And just as quickly as it started, the sound faded, swallowed by the storm. Kevin's instincts, long dulled by fear, screamed to follow where the sound had come from. Without thinking, he sprinted toward the deeper shadows of the park, where the trees twisted higher and the rain fell harder. "Lily," he shouted once more. The urgency in his voice felt primal, raw. Each footfall splashed through puddles, the water seeping into his shoes, but he paid no mind. Suddenly, a flash of light cut through the gritty darkness. He stopped, stunned, staring ahead. Before him stood an ancient tree, gnarled and twisted, its aura pulsating with eerie energy. At its base lay a small stone altar, cloaked in creeping vines and glistening with rain. There, on the altar, was another pendant, identical to the one in his hand, but glowing with an ethereal light. Was this Lily's truth? Was it a warning? His heart raced as his mind wrestled with the implications. The hairs on the back of his neck prickled, an instinct reminding him that shadows lurked close. Kevin stepped closer to the altar, drawn in by the mystery, ready to uncover whatever lay behind this unfolding horror. As he reached out to grasp the glowing pendant, a voice erupted from the darkness. "Leave it. You don't know what you're tampering with." Fear sliced through him. He spun around, suddenly aware he wasn't alone. Who was there, watching him? And how did they know what he was about to do? The storm raged on, lightning streaking the sky, illuminating the intruder's face for just a flash. What genesis of horror had he stumbled into? Why was the choice of adoption leading him here? The pieces of his life, his choice, and the shadows began to swirl dangerously close. Kevin's heart thundered in his chest as the figure stepped out from the shadows, cloaked in darkness but now revealed in the light of the storm. Strong features, defined by hardship and purpose, stared at him with a mix of urgency and fear. His eyes widened, full of warning. "Who are you?" Kevin's voice shook, barely louder than the wind. "I'm here to protect you," the stranger replied, his tone steady but urgent. "But you're at crossroads. You cannot touch that pendant." As the man's words sank in, Kevin's grip tightened around the cold metal in his hand. "What do you mean? Why can't I?" The intruder took a step closer, rain mixing with his sweat, eyes darting between Kevin and the altar. "That pendant holds power, Kevin. It can unlock the past, but it can also unleash darkness you aren't prepared for. It's connected to Lily and your future. You must understand the choice you're about to make." Kevin shook his head in frustration, confusion spiraling through him. "What choice? I don't even know what is happening." The man held his gaze, his expression fierce yet pleading. "Every time you've chosen to face the truth, you've found solace. Every time you've run away, you've invited shadows. Lily is nicked by those shadows. She needs you. To choose one pendant could either save her or doom you both. You need to decide who you are willing to save. Panic surged inside Kevin like fire. Flickers of old memories igniting again, childhood laughter drowned in sorrow, his family shattered by decisions left unmade. He felt pinned beneath the weight of it all. But I'm just what? Just a guy who runs from everything because he is scared? The stranger challenged, his voice rising above the chaos of the storm. This isn't about you, Kevin. This is about her, Lily. She may pay the price for your fear. You have to choose. Tears mixed with the rain, hot and heavy. Each word echoed like thunder in his mind, amplifying the fear that stifled him. Too much was at stake. He had spent so long avoiding responsibility, letting life coast by while doubt strangled him. Now that doubt screamed at him to flee from the danger surrounding the glowing pendant. But the other pendant in his hand pulsed with energy and familiarity. It felt alive, as if it could fix what was fractured inside him. He glanced back at the altar, caught between two forces, one of light, one of unseen terror. The wind howled, and the surrounding trees swayed like ghosts. In that moment, Kevin understood what the stranger meant. He wasn't just choosing for himself. This choice could reverberate through lives he had yet to meet. Lily needs me, he whispered. But if I take the pendant, what will it cost? Sometimes the cost of holding on to hope is facing the worst parts of ourselves, the man replied softly. But only you can make that choice. Will you save her, or let the darkness claim you both? A flash of lightning lit the scene, revealing the altar in stark relief, both pendants glimmering as if they were breathing. Kevin's heart raced as the weight of his decision pressed down upon him. More than just metal in his palm, but the very fate of everything he held dear. Kevin, the stranger shouted, snapping him from his spiraling thoughts. Time is running out. Make your choice. Each second ticked away like a countdown. He was running out of time to save Lily, to save himself. The storm raged louder, and with it, the chaos in his mind. But one thought prevailed, a voice rising above the storm, anchoring him. He had to act. What would he sacrifice to protect the only light left in his life? Before he could think it through, he stepped toward the altar, breath held tight in his chest. In that moment, he made the only choice he felt was left to him. But was it the right one? The storm crackled overhead, the air thick with anticipation as he reached out for the glowing pendant. As Kevin's fingers brushed against the glowing pendant, a surge of energy jolted through him, sharp and electric. The storm crackled around him, a symphony of nature's fury reflecting the tempest raging within. He sensed, in that instant, a connection, a tether, binding him to the pendant, a bridge to choices he had not thought possible. What have you done? The stranger shouted, panic flooding his voice. You can't, but the words were lost to the howling winds. The pendant lit up, casting an ethereal glow that illuminated the darkness surrounding them. It transformed the altar into an otherworldly beacon, a point from which shadows twisted and writhed, eager but held back by some unseen boundary. Kevin's body shook as memories flooded his mind. Lily's laughter, her gentle touch, the promise he'd made to keep her safe. He and T meant to choose the pendant, yet somehow it felt destined, like reaching towards something he had always needed but couldn't identify until now. Let go, Kevin, the stranger urged, voice thick with urgency. You have to reclaim your strength. You can't give into it. But what did that mean? His heart raced, torn between the heat of nostalgia and the lure of mystery. Weren't these feelings the reason he had avoided this path for so long? He longed for solace, for answers, yet they hovered just beyond his reach. Without warning, the ground trembled. The altar shook violently as dark tendrils of mist coiled around Kevin's feet, pulling him down, dragging him into a void that hummed with malicious energy. Images slashed through his mind, warping reality, a shattered childhood, a love lost in the smoke of indecision, a darkness that drowned everything it touched. Fight it! The stranger's voice cut through the haze, breaking the spell. Remember why you're here. With each heartbeat, the connections to his past sharpened. Kevin started to recall the moments of courage that had defined him, the paths he had carved despite his fears. The beating storm outside felt less like a threat and more like a catalyst, igniting something dormant within him. "Lily," he whispered, feeling a flicker of resolve ignite in his chest. Memories of her smiling face cut through the shadows. He wouldn't let the darkness take her, but he gripped the pendant tighter, forcing through the pain that shattered inside him a sacrifice. Yes, but not one without purpose. In that moment of clarity, he found his voice and shouted, "I choose hope." The pendant blazed, a brilliant light bursting forth, dispersing the shadows swirling around him. The storm winds accelerated, shrieking, as if warning him that breaking the chains of fear had consequences. The darkness hissed in protest, retreating for just a heartbeat as the power of his choice surged forth. Then, in an instant, everything fell eerily silent. The calm that followed was chilling. The wind stilled, and the air shimmered with residual energy. What had happened? Kevin gasped, staring down at the pendant that now pulsed softly in his hand, a gentle heartbeat tethered to his own. The stranger's eyes were wide with realization, all mixing with an understanding that rippled between them. "You faced it, but be wary. This is only the beginning, an invitation to shadowed depths." Lily's safety still hangs in the balance. Kevin's heart sank. He had acted, yes, but the weight of what lay ahead pressed heavily on his mind. "What do we do now?" he asked, desperation creeping in. The stranger took a deep breath, eyes stormy with determination. "Now, we find Lily. But first, you need to understand the truth behind that pendant. Before you can save her, you must confront the shadows you've awakened." Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted again. Shadows twitched and writhed around them, whispering threats of what lay hidden in the depths of the unknown. With a surge of courage, Kevin steeled himself. He understood that he had entered a dangerous game, and the stakes were higher than ever. The path ahead was uncertain, twisting through realms unseen. He would have to brave whatever darkness awaited, for it wasn't just Lily's. Life hanging in the balance, it was his very soul. But as they turned to leave, the shadows whispered one word, resonating with an otherworldly echo. Choose. As Kevin took his first step into the unknown, he could feel the weight of a new decision envelop him. Each step could lead him closer to Lily or plunge them both deeper into shadow. Which path would he dare to explore? Kevin's heart raced as the shadows coiled tighter around him, their whispers almost palpable. Choose echoed in his mind, not just a command, but a haunting reminder of the gravity of his situation. "Stay focused, Kevin," the stranger urged, snapping him back to reality. "We need to move." They stepped away from the altar, the air heavy with tension. Each footfall felt like a small rebellion against the dark forces bearing down on him. The pendant glowed softly, a beacon against the oppressive shadows. Kevin could feel its energy like a pulse syncing with his own, urging him forward. "What did you mean about confronting the shadows?" he asked, voice trembling. Hints of fear clawed at the edges of his resolve. "What do I even have to face?" The stranger glanced over his shoulder, eyes scanning the swirling darkness. "The pendant is a key, Kevin, a bridge between worlds. But the shadows know your fears, they use them against you." His breath hitched as flashes of shame and regret washed over him. Memories he wanted to bury, lost opportunities, broken relationships, and the weight of his failures all clamored for attention. He tried to shake them away, but the ghosts of his past clung stubbornly, demanding recognition. The ground beneath their feet shifted, as if acknowledging his turmoil. "Keep moving," the stranger shouted, urgency lacing his voice. "Don't look back." They dashed down a narrow path unveiled by the pendant's light, the shadows pressing closer. Suddenly, a shadow formed before them, morphing into a familiar face, his mother, her expression twisted in sorrow. "You could have saved her, you know," she murmured, voice dripping with disappointment. "No," Kevin shouted, clenching his fists. "I did my best." But the shadow only smirked, taunting him with memories of his inadequacies. Focusing on the past, save Lily. The stranger yelled, breaking through the illusion. You have to let them go, Kevin. Embrace who you are now. Kevin shook his head, pushing through the darkness surrounding him. I'm not the person I should be. I failed her. Not yet. The stranger insisted, stepping forward, his determination igniting something in Kevin. You can still choose to change that narrative. Fight for her. Fight for yourself. With a deep breath, he felt the pendant react, resonating with his growing strength. He concentrated, focusing on the memories of love, laughter, and hope instead of pain. I will not be defined by my past, he declared, his voice steadying. The shadows howled, swirling chaotically, as if enraged by his defiance. But somewhere deep within him, another flame sparked a burning desire to reclaim what was rightfully his, to save Lily and dissolve the darkness. Another shadow lunged, twisting from the depths, this time taking the form of Lily herself. Why did you leave me, Kevin? She asked, her voice a haunting melody that tugged at his heart. Lily, he gasped, stepping toward the vision of her. I'm trying to find you. I want to let you go again. The shadow flickered, revealing a glimmer of turquoise around her neck, the very pendant he clutched. Then choose, Kevin. Choose me. The overwhelming pressure of that choice threatened to shatter him. The weight of her gaze bore into him, connecting their souls even through the darkness. He could feel the truth in those words, a deep yearning to protect her, to bring her back to safety. Lily, I choose you. I choose us, he roared, as the pendant blazed fiercely in affirmation that in that moment. The shadows crumbled, disintegrating under the brightness of his declaration. The path ahead opened wider, yet Kevin could still feel the weight of every unmade decision. As clarity dawned, he felt the tether to his past pull and tug, but he forged ahead. Keep going. The stranger encouraged, a fierce wind at their backs now. Stepping into the light felt like crossing a threshold the unknown stretched out before them, a promise wrapped in uncertainty. Where do we go now? Kevin breathed, pulse quickening with anticipation. Only one way to find out, the stranger replied, glancing back at the receding shadows. We dive deeper, but be ready. The real challenge lies ahead. As they trudged forward, an unsettling sensation crawled along Kevin's spine. What awaited them in the depths? A sudden rumble echoed ominously, shaking the ground beneath their feet. Something dark and powerful stirred, reminding him that every choice laid a path that could provoke even darker shadows. What comes next? He whispered, his voice trembling. The pendulum swung toward destiny. Beneath their feet, the ground quaked anew, and from the depths, something monstrous awoke. The ground trembled violently, each quake sending shockwaves through Kevin's body. Beside him, the stranger's grip tightened around the pendant, its glow flickering like a dying flame. Hold on, he shouted, his voice rising above the chaos. Kevin's heart raced. He felt the darkness writhe beneath him, incomprehensible and alive, seething with malevolence, as if eager to consume him whole. What is happening? He cried, fear creeping into his voice. Something has awakened, the stranger replied, urgency lacing every word. We have disturbed forces meant to remain dormant. We must act quickly. Before he could respond, the shadows roared, and the ground split wide. A chasm opened up, revealing a void that seemed to pull at his very essence. The darkness swirled, and with it came distorted faces, twisted versions of emotional burdens Kevin had fought so hard to escape. Look, the stranger pointed, eyes wide. Above the chasm, monstrous shapes formed, amorphous beings filled with rage and pain. You must face them. They are born from your regrets, ignore them, and they consume you. In the air, he heard familiar echoes, the laughter of friends long gone, the sharp cries of mistakes made, the whispers of those he had lost. Each fragmented note entered his heart, squeezing it tighter, making it ache with despair. No, not now. Kevin stumbled back, trying to avert his gaze, but he was caught in the web of his own mind. Remember, Kevin, the stranger urged. You have the power. Use the pendant. Face them and reclaim your strength. Clenching his fists, he chanted it in his mind. I will not be defined by my past. The words echoed in his soul, strengthening him. He stepped forward, the glowing pendant illuminating a path through the darkness. Who do you think you are? A thunderous voice boomed from the shadows, a grotesque figure taking shape, resembling the worst fears playing out in his heart. You think you can outrun your failures? No, Kevin shouted back, mustering every ounce of courage. I own my past, but one T owned me. The figure lunged, but Kevin stood firm, thrusting the pendant forward. A surge of energy radiated from it, slicing through the darkness. The more he embraced his past decisions, mistakes, and triumphs, the weaker the shadow became. Each painful memory he faced drained the specter of its power. Kevin, you can do it, the stranger shouted, stepping forward to fight the other lurking shadows, mirroring the strength Kevin was cultivating. The bond between them shifted, morphing from mere survival to an alliance fighting side by side. As the last vestiges of the monstrous figure dissipated into the air, relieving him of the tense grip around his heart, Kevin felt a rush of exhilaration. I choose to fight, he cried, and with one final push, he propelled the pendant, scattering the darkness. But silence fell heavy after the chaos. The air around them shimmered, a crackle of energy sweeping by. Then it turned. Kevin's pulse quickened as the shadows coalesced into something lighter, ethereal whispers blending into melodies of hope. Was this a new beginning or another kind of trap? I think we did it, he breathed, glancing toward the stranger. But the stranger frowned, eyes wide in horror. No, it's not over yet. His voice shrank, panic creeping in. Something much worse has been awakened. We need to leave now, before it finds us. Before Kevin could react, the ground shook violently again. He could feel something ancient and powerful pushing against the boundaries, and then he heard a deep, resonant laugh that echoed like thunder, filled with malice. And just like that, as the floor split further, revealing a void that screamed with hunger, one single thought fired through his mind. What comes next? He didn't want to know. But as the glowing pendant dimmed, Kevin knew he had no choice but to find out. In the depths of that darkness, something monstrous was waiting. The air crackled with dread as the ground continued to quake. Kevin's breath quickened, each gasp heavy with uncertainty. The remnants of shadow flickered around the dimming pendant, and his heart raced, pounding like a war drum. Run! The stranger shouted, grabbing Kevin's arm and yanking him toward what looked like an escape. But the darkness seemed to stretch endlessly, relentless and hungry. Kevin's instincts screamed at him to flee, yet his heavy feet felt glued to the ground. Memories clutched at his mind like chains, aching to pull him back into the depths. Faces lost friends, painful moments blurred past his vision. Kevin, snap out of it. The stranger's voice pierced through the chaos, slicing through the suffocating fog. Shaking his head, Kevin's grip on the pendant tightened. What if we can't outrun it? He breathed, tears welling in his eyes. What if it's all a trap? Then we face it. The stranger surged ahead, his determination reigniting Kevin's spirit. They squeezed through erratic fissures opening beneath their feet, the ground teetering uncertainly. Just then, the laughter returned deeper, more sinister, echoing all around them. Shadows twisted and extended, morphing into grotesque caricatures of the lives they once lived. Each figure seemed to mock Kevin's every step toward freedom. Kevin, we must stay united. Stay focused, the stranger urged, pulling him along. But that laughter, it reverberated through his bones, growing closer. Shadows danced in and out of perception, flickering like candlelight. Panic mounted, vision narrowing in on the darkness behind. He felt a presence, heavy and commanding. Do you think you can escape? The laughter thundered again. You have awakened what should not be. All your regrets, they're my power. No, Kevin shouted, clenching his fists, the pendant flaring to life at his side. You don't own me. I fought too long to be free. The words sparked something within him, illuminating the folds of the shadows, forming a radiant path forward. He could almost see a glimmer of hope beyond the chaos. The stranger breathed heavily beside him, voice strained but unwavering. "Kevin, we need to channel that power. Let it guide us." Kevin nodded, drawing on their shared strength. He swung the pendant, focusing its glow into every shadow that lunged at them. Each strike sent bursts of light through the thick darkness, melting snippets of regret into shimmering dust. They sprinted toward a swirling mass of shadows, hearts pounding, pulse racing with urgency. Yet, as they neared, the mass morphed, stretching into subtle, almost human forms, flickering with sadness. It was as if their failures were pleading for recognition, calling out in desperation. The echoes of laughter weaved through their cries, a haunting nursery rhyme of despair. "Kevin, they will try to pull you back." The stranger shouted over the chaos. "Stay strong." But the faces swirled around him, tears in their eyes, calling his name. Each figure was a fragment of his past old friends, moments that shaped him. He could feel their pain as they reached out. The weight of their disappointment settled on his chest, choking him momentarily. "Face them," the stranger cried. "You must embrace the pain to truly move forward." And just like that, a choice stood before him: face his past, or let it consume him whole. Kevin, now trembling, felt something snap inside. "I refuse to let you control my life." With that declaration, the energy within the pendant surged, a blinding light enveloping them both as the figures shrieked in unison. The world spun around him, the ripples of energy pushing back the encroaching darkness. But then, the laughter rose again, chilling and unstoppable. "Foolish boy, your journey has only just begun." As reality warped, pulling Kevin and the stranger into a swirling abyss, one final question echoed in his mind. What awaited them in this even darker realm? Something far worse than shadows was coming next. As the blinding light enveloped them, Kevin felt weightless, suspended in a void where time ceased to exist. It was a strange, surreal state, blanketed in an eerie silence that smothered his thoughts. A moment later, the silence shattered. They landed hard, the ground beneath them damp and cold, its surface slick like a forgotten grave. "Get up," the stranger urged, scrambling to his feet. Kevin followed suit, heart pounding against his ribcage. The atmosphere here was thick with despair, a heavy blanket of shadows that clung to their skin. He could feel the remnants of laughter still curling in the air, whispering taunts. "Where are we?" Kevin managed, squinting into the darkness. Dim shapes flickered around them, distorted echoes of memories, twisted and corrupt. Each shadow seeped into the bones, a reminder of everything he fought against. This is the underveil," the stranger replied, his voice taut, heavy with tension. "A realm of lost hopes and dreams. We need to find a way back before it consumes us." "They're coming," Kevin exclaimed, pointing as a cluster of shadowy figures coalesced from the dark, their forms shifting and morphing into something cruel. The eyes that glowed from within were filled with malice, a hunger that sent shivers coursing down his spine. "Stand together," the stranger demanded, raising the pendant high. Its light pulsed, creating a protective barrier around them. With a defiant swing, Kevin joined, pouring his will into the radiant glow. The shadows hissed, recoiling from its brightness, but their numbers were growing, more eager to engulf them. "Kevin, remember who you are," the stranger shouted amid the chaos. "Let that guide you." Each word ignited something within him. Clarity began to break through the fog. "I'm not just someone with regrets," Kevin roared, eyes ablaze with determination. "I'm more than my past." With that declaration, he focused harder, channeling not just fear, but strength, acceptance, and hope into the pendant. The shadows writhed angrily, fighting to breach their light. But as Kevin and the stranger stood firm, a crack of luminescence erupted, casting sharp rays in all directions. More faces materialized from the darkness: friends, loved ones, and flickers of laughter. They gave him strength. Each smile was a lifeline, urging him to persevere, to remember the moments that mattered most. But as he stood fortified, the laughter fell silent. From the depths, a deep, malevolent voice resonated, louder and seething with rage. "You think you can escape my grip? You will never be free." The ground trembled beneath them, and one figure, a monstrous silhouette, emerged, towering over the rest. It bore the scars of his deepest fears, a grotesque creature formed from his pain, its eyes like voids. Kevin felt a chill seize his heart. "No," he shouted defiantly, pushing back with all his might. "You're not real." The beast snarled, lunging forward, its fangs bared. The light wavered as shadows threatened to drown it. For a split second, Kevin faltered, caught in the specter of his own doubt. "Fight!" the stranger yelled, urgency ringing in his voice. "You are the master of your fate." That ignited the fire in Kevin again. He reached deep inside, tapping into his reservoir of strength, and with a surge of will, directed the light into the oncoming darkness. But as the radiance exploded outward, the creature squealed, staggering back. Then with a howl, it began to morph, becoming something unrecognizable, slipping further into the shadows that Kevin's heart raced. What was it doing? The shadows twisted and spiraled. Anxiety clawed at him. Maybe it's more than a fear, the stranger speculated. What if it's revealing your truest vulnerabilities? It could be your only chance to escape if you dare confront it fully. Fear gripped Kevin's heart like a vice. The options rang in his mind, challenging him. Would he dare face even darker truths? As the shape shifted dangerously, he took a shaky step forward, knowing he could either stand down and be consumed or confront the embodiment of every painful memory. The light around him flickered, then dimmed, growing softer, quieter. The shadows swirled faster, and Kevin felt a pull, a magnetic draw, towards something lurking at the edge of darkness. Just as that pull intensified, he caught a glimpse of the creature's true form, and an unsettling question arose. Was it fear itself, or an unfaced truth that would change everything he thought he knew? He was about to find out. The shadows writhed around Kevin like a living storm, their whispers now accentuating the threatening figure before him. It shifted in and out of familiarity, a haunting representation of everything he feared: loss, regret, and self-doubt. Drenched in darkness, it seemed to tease his vulnerabilities, feeding off his insecurities. "Face it," Kevin, the stranger urged. "This is a reflection of who you truly are. It knows you better than you know yourself." Panic surged within him. "But what if I can't? What if it consumes me?" His voice trembled as memories flickered in the shadows. Memories of the friendships he had let slip away, faces he had chosen to forget, and a life spent hiding from not just his past, but from himself. "You can do this," the stranger insisted, unyielding. "Because the truth won't destroy you, it will set you free." Taking a deep breath, Kevin forced himself to step forward, determination igniting like a wildfire. "I won't let you own me. I have faced my past enough to know it will not dictate my future." He raised the pendant high, energy coursing through him, mingling with the fear, lighting a spark of defiance against the encroaching darkness. If responding to his courage, the creature reeled back, a howl of rage ripping from its depths. The shadows writhed violently, pulling at him as if trying to drag him back into despair. "You think you can abandon me?" It sneered, eyes narrowing. "Why would I abandon a part of myself?" Kevin shot back, grounding his stance. "Each mistake, each failure has formed who I am today. They've taught me strength and resilience. I won't run anymore." His voice thundered, shaking the very foundations around them. The darkness screeched, recoiling momentarily. Kevin felt light pouring through him, radiant and fierce. He felt the weight of every connection, past friends, lessons learned, and fleeting moments of joy. They pulsed throughout him, invigorating his spirit like sunlight shattering dawn. What I feared most was never having the courage to choose. I choose to illuminate the darkest parts of my soul. Driven by his resolve, Kevin focused everything he had on the pendant. It blazed to life, casting a beam of blinding light that sliced through the black haze. The creature howled, frantically flailing as the brilliance enveloped it, exposing the truth buried deep within its form. "No, you cannot know me," it shrieked, but with each wave of light, the shadows faltered until the monstrosity began to shimmer, revealing an entity steeped in sorrow. Kevin squinted, heart racing. It began to take shape, not a monster, but a broken reflection of his own insecurities and fears. "I see you," Kevin whispered, resolve flooding his heart. "I see my pain, my guilt, my lost opportunities. I acknowledge you, but you don't control me." With each word, he infused the pendant with more strength, capturing memories of laughter, warmth, and hope. The creature shrieked again, distorted remnants of his past scattering like autumn leaves caught in a storm. As he pressed forward, he could almost hear the echoes of those lost fond memories, the childhood laughter, the connections he still held dear. Suddenly, with a final burst of clarity, Kevin surged toward the shadowed entity. "You will not win." The near silence shattered as the light intensified, collapsing the figure into a radiant stream of energy that swirled around him, wrapping him in comfort and warmth. The underworld trembled around them, the weight of darkness beginning to lift. Kevin felt lightness in his chest. "I choose hope. I choose love. I choose life. I embrace my past, and I refuse to let it break me." The overwhelming energy surged as he directed it toward the darkness, illuminating every crevice, every shadow, erasing the shadows with each heartbeat. With one last reverberating shout, "I am who I choose to be." Kevin felt the pendant pulse brightly, its glow overpowering the surrounding dark and illuminating a path ahead. The scream of darkness turned into whispers of surrender, and as the last remnants dissipated, a new light dawned. Images flashed, a vivid scene of Lily smiling, joy radiating from her innocent presence. He realized that this wasn't just a conclusion to his struggles, but an awakening. The past was not something to run from, but to learn and grow from. "What happens now?" he breathed, breathless yet invigorated. The stranger smiled, relief washing over his features. "Now, you return to her. You found the truth within the shadows, and you must carry that light forward." As the remnants of the underveil unraveled, Kevin felt the world shift around him. Suddenly, they were elsewhere, enveloped in warm sunlight. The park, glistening and vibrant, stood before him. Birds chirped, and the laughter of children danced on the breeze like music. "Lily," he called, heart pounding with urgency. He sprinted through the park, each step lighter, each breath a promise of connection. Closer, he glimpsed her sitting under the ancient oak tree, surrounded by a group of kids. She was laughing, her face glowing like a radiant sun. Kevin's heart swelled. He approached her, breathless, enveloped in joy. "Lily," he whispered, kneeling before her. The light from the pendant continued to warm his chest. I'm here, and I choose you always." The girl looked up, eyes sparkling with understanding. "You came back," she said softly, yet her gaze held the weight of their shared struggle and triumph. "Always," Kevin affirmed, pulling her into a warm embrace. Feeling the light spread between them, they held each other. The shadows of the past faded into mere whispers, replaced by the promise of a future wrapped in love, hope, and endless possibilities. For Kevin, this was just the beginning of a beautiful chapter, one written not from shadows or fears, but from the choice of life. And together, they would illuminate the path ahead. Thank you for joining us on this amazing journey. Now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us reach even more people. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this heartfelt conclusion. Share your own stories of hope and resilience. And don't wait even one more second. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this epic conclusion. Your support keeps this community thriving.